everyone, this is Kavanagh speaking, and welcome to yet another amazing episode of CUNY Uncut, where we talk about anything and everything. Uncensored, unedited, and uncut. God, I don't even know where to start, honestly. This is a bit of an emotional episode for me, because this is actually going to be my final appearance on the show. And part of the reason, the huge reason for that is because I created this show with students in mind. This show is all about amplifying student voices and the voices of recent alumni. But I just graduated this past January, and I found that the longer that I hosted the show, the less student-centric it would become. So that has a lot to do with it, but I'm excited for the show. It's crazy. It started off as a podcast, turned into a show at CUNY TV, and now it's a student legacy show where we're going to be having a brand new host who's actually right here with me right now. She's a rising senior at Hunter, represent, woo! Studying media as a major and minoring in journalism. She also works as the guest experience rep at Lincoln Center, and she also interns at CUNY TV in addition to taking on this role. I would love to give the warmest welcome to my good friend, Isabel Ortiz. How you doing, Isabel?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. I have a little bit of nerves, but overall excited.
You're gonna kick ASS. You're gonna do great. So
well, thank you. Thank you for doing this and for having me and trusting me to take over. I'm super excited.
No, of course. Thank you for being here. So with that being said, do you want to switch roles?
Yeah, I guess it's time.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So, Hannah, how does it feel to be on the other side of the table?
It's so funny. It's quite surreal, actually, because I'm like, oh, this is the angle that people have been seeing me this entire year. It's crazy.
I know. I can imagine.
I don't know.
Yeah, but I just want to thank you for trusting me to take over for season 2. I'm really excited, and I'm really excited to take CUNY Uncut into its next season, and yeah.
No, of course. I feel like as soon as when I met with you one-on-one, when I was like looking for a new host to kind of take over the position, I just got such great vibes from you from the onset, and you're like so nice and like so open, and also just the ideas that you came up with I thought were really cool and cutting edge, and I'm really excited to see what you do with the show.
Well, thank you. That really means a lot to me, and yeah, I'm excited to bring more notice to the students and recent alumni, and I can't wait to get started.
Yep.
So, while I have you across the table today, I wanted to ask you just a couple questions about the creation of CUNY Uncut and all that it means to you. So, when you first stepped into the studio, did you ever imagine that CUNY Uncut would be the show it is today?
Absolutely not. And it's so interesting too, because it technically didn't really start in the studio. There was like a long journey leading up to it, because at first I was actually going to the home campus of the students I was interviewing. Mm-hmm. So I recorded an episode at Hunter, I did one episode at City College, and it was so funny. I would use all of my own podcasting equipment. Okay. So I'd haul it in this like suitcase that was at least like 20 pounds, just hauling it on and off the trains. And
wow.
So, yeah, but I don't know. It was something I was just really passionate about from the beginning. CUNY Central reached out to me because they caught wind of this other podcast I was doing at the time called Tea for Three that I did with a lot of my friends at the Hunter dorms at Brookdale.
Okay.
And then, so when they caught wind of that, they were like, oh, we'd love to collaborate on a podcast with you. And, you know, they gave me full creative control. And that's when I came up with the concept of CUNY Uncut. Yeah. So I feel like anything released by admin, students are immediately skeptical. Like, is this some marketing ploy? Is this some heavily curated thing? And giving it an uncut, raw feel of like students' experiences, I felt like was very important and needed to kind of be shared. So
I feel too that a lot of CUNY students sometimes feel like they go unnoticed. We're such a big system, so giving a voice to the students, especially making a show by a student for the students, is really awesome. So when you started this podcast, I know it's CUNY Uncut. Were there some like fears you had going into it with keeping everyone in mind, and did you want to, I guess, represent specific voices?
That's a great question. I mean, I think part of it for me, because it's funny, I got into acting initially, and I went to performing arts high school, studied theater, and I always felt underrepresented and misunderstood. I mean, especially in theater places, because they're
Yeah.
white as hell, let's be real. But I don't know, I felt like there weren't really roles out there for me, and so that's kind of why I fell in love with media and podcasting, because I wanted everyone to have a voice. I didn't really come in with highlighting specific voices in particular, but I did notice the general trend was like a lot of like first gen students, and then at the beginning a lot of students that were very involved in like the Black Lives Matter movement and things like that.
Okay.
So one thing I didn't expect, it took way more of a political leaning, which I think is great, but it just kind of grew into that a little bit, which is interesting.
Yeah, like I'm sure like when you go into something like this, you have high hopes for it, but you never really know how it's gonna turn out.
Yeah, it's kind of like raising it. I mean, I don't know. I'm obviously not a parent. I'm like 23, but it's like your child, you know?
No, yeah,
you
this
like
is
never
your
know.
brainchild. It's your brainchild.
No, because it's like you mold it to be a certain way, but then it's just gonna take on a life of its own.
Yeah,
and I find
of
that's
course.
the case with a lot of creative projects. You just never know where it's.
Yeah.
I'm sure you relate to that too.
Yeah, of course. So I know when we've spoken a lot, and I've gotten to know you during this time, and one thing I appreciate from you, and one thing I really appreciate about your experience and you being so open about your experience, and something that we share, college isn't a linear path.
No, definitely not. No.
So I'm sure taking this on during that time was a lot. So did you feel like sometimes it was overwhelming, and what advice do you give to students who feel like they're taking on and going on to the next steps of their career?
Yeah, honestly, I mean, for me, podcasting was something that started, the media stuff was a fun thing for me. So it was something that I didn't, it's not that I never really made all this with the idea of like, oh, this is going to be my career. It just kind of happened.
Yeah.
I don't know, you just fall into stuff that you really enjoy and love. So I would just say I just went with the flow and it brought me here. So as cliche as it sounds, I'm gonna sound like a surfer when I'm like go with the flow, but I really feel like that rings true. People kind of feel like people go against their instincts.
Yeah.
Especially because they're like, oh, like this isn't gonna make me any money. Like I want to do something that like has some stability.
Yeah.
And it's like, but if you just do stuff for fun, I feel like it's all gonna kind of come.
Yeah,
know?
Of course. And I know that you ended up changing your major while you were in college later in your college career.
Multiple times.
Multiple times. I mean, it happens to everybody.
It really do be like that sometimes.
It really do be like that. But for you, how did that change in your major affect the creation of the show?
Wow. Oh my God. Look at you dishing out these questions.
Thanks.
Another great question. Yeah, honestly, I think it's interesting because before I switched to film, I was doing a lot of this stuff that with the audio and video editing. So I don't know. I think it was less about for context. Like I started off majoring in journalism, added history, dropped that, added poli-sci, ended up dropping both poli-sci and journalism, picking up film. So that was the whole thing. I don't know. Honestly, film as a major, it really inspired me to kind of push the envelope a bit creatively with the kind of like topics that I wanted to cover and like the guests that I would have on and also how to go about that too, because I'm not the most organized person on the planet. But for film, like pre-production is probably the most, I mean, obviously it's the most foundational and arguably one of the most important stages of the filmmaking process.
Yeah.
You know, having like a set call time, like, having a shot list, and granted this is kind of a whole other thing, but having those like disciplinary like practices kind of instilled, I feel like really helped me with the show, and just also feeling very inspired by my peers and what they were doing creatively.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like this really, I'm like, I just gotta go for it, and I think my peers really inspired me with that too in my major.
Yeah. Having those pre-production skills, it's like the more prepared you are, the better.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially with a production, it's very rare that nothing goes wrong. Something is bound to go awry. So it's like the more prepared you are going into it, the better. So I think it really helped with that as someone that's prone to disorganization and some slight chaos every now and again.
But that I feel like having that trait about you is what makes you great and what makes everything that you make really interesting. especially like podcasting it's super popular, especially now. Like every time you talk to someone, it's like they're either talking about a podcast they listen to, wanting to start a podcast. Everybody wants to start a podcast.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to start a podcast. But you actually took that risky step and started your own podcast when you started T for 3, and it ended up turning into this. So what advice do you have for people who want to start their own podcast?
I would say it's tough. I mean, for me, I think having a twist really helps.
Yeah.
Especially because there's a lot of podcasts where people just talk for the sake of talking, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to have podcasts like that as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I think putting your own personal spin on it and not being afraid to like push the creative envelope, I think helps with that. Like with T for 3, I mean, it was interesting because I saw it more as like a social thing to do with friends, but there was that hook of like, for people that don't know, there's like a tea hook to it where I would have friends on the show and we try a different brand of tea at the start of every episode. We describe the notes to the listeners, rate on a scale from 1 to 10. And I even did this this ASMR thing where I'd pour tea from a teapot into a teacup to kind of transition into the segment.
That's cool.
So like,
That's
I don't know,
cool.
stuff to just kind of, and even though it's like some of it sounds silly, it's like it's okay to just give it a shot sometimes, you know?
But even the things that sound a little silly, that's what gives it like its own little personal touch or its own little personal edge, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So like I said, a lot of people are drawn to podcasts, but starting one can be a scary thing, can be a risky thing.
Yeah.
So when you started CUNY Uncut, what made you decide to go with podcasting over something else, like a YouTube channel or something like that?
Interesting. I mean, I think because it's just something I felt so comfy with, and it's so rare because I feel like when I was younger, I would go for anything creatively, and I wasn't afraid, and I think that really changed when I was like 14, 15. Because, you know, when you get older and you're a teen and you're feeling awkward and uncomfortable about everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like that discomfort with creative stuff I'm just now working through it now as like an adult. You know, I felt like I had a large lull of that. Mm-hmm. But with podcasting, for some reason, it felt so second nature to me. It felt so refreshing. Okay. And so for me, it just felt like a natural starting point for CUNY Uncut, especially because like when CUNY Central reached out, they knew me through T for 3. Mm-hmm. So for me, it just kind of made sense. But it was an interesting thing where with all this other creative stuff, because I used to sing and play guitar and act, and I was petrified to do any of that stuff in public. No,
you do
definitely
it all.
no. I definitely have my major flubs here and there, but no, it's like
no. Give yourself some credit. I can't even sing. I can't do any of that.
No, but with the podcasting, it just came so naturally. I never second guessed myself, which is kind of rare for me with this stuff. Funny enough. That's
good. That's how you know it's right for you.
No,
when you
for
don't
sure.
second guess it and it just feels right in your gut, you know. And like you said, getting through those awkward years and like figuring yourself out, like it's the best and the worst of times, but you learn a lot about yourself during that time.
It's hard too because it's like, I don't know, that I feel like that never fully goes away. I feel like that discomfort comes when you're like aware of how others perceive you for the first time.
Yes.
And you're like, oh my God, like these eyes are on me. That doesn't even cross your mind when you're a kid. So
yeah.
But then it's interesting, like one thing I'm realizing about confidence and just feeling that sense of like self-esteem, there's definitely an ebb and flow to it. Because I thought there's times where I feel super confident and I'm like, I've conquered it. I've done it. And then one thing happens and I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I doing?
No, I'm the same. I'll go into something and I'm like, I got it. I'm good. And then it's right in front of me. I'm like, this is a lot. Like, I like that saying, I girled boss too close to the sun.
You're like Icarus.
Yeah. Yeah, but for you, now that you're moving on to new and bigger and exciting projects, not that CUNY Uncut will not ever be important to you.
No, it always have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, of course.
Baby. Yeah.
But now that you're moving into new projects, what do you hope to, what content do you hope to create, and like who do you hope to reach with your content?
Interesting. I think like one thing I would love to do is kind of get a bit more, lean into the creative stuff a little bit more.
Okay.
because I love a conversational show. I love interview podcasts and interview shows. Well, obviously, because we're here.
We're doing it.
Yeah, we're doing it. But I kind of want to try something a little bit different, probably with a bit more of a heavier editing style, a bit more creative. It's so funny because I'm actually producing segments for Urban U, so I'm producing my first 2 segments kind of out since post-CUNY Uncut with them.
Everybody, check that out.
Yes, keep on the lookout. August 3rd, the episode comes out. But I'm doing one of the segments I'm working on is on the origins of punk and how it's rooted in queerness. Because punk actually started off as a homophobic slur before people that were involved in the punk music scene claimed the term as their own. And I don't know. I love music. I love talking about film. I love like critique and analysis and things like that. So I think any way to kind of lean into that a bit more, kind of do more of a video essay thing would be cool. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to do.
Yeah.
More critique. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I just, even talking to you now, I learned so much about everything you just said. And I know, like, going into season 2, I want to make CUNY Uncut, or every guest I have on CUNY Uncut, I want to be able to learn something from. I want to go into it with the stance of, I don't know much about this subject, tell me about it, teach me about it.
Yeah, it's almost like you're in the seat with the listeners.
Yeah.
Or the viewers as it's like they're along with you for the ride.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I figured if I can learn anything from this, I want to learn as much as I can, you know?
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like making it all about the guest. I feel like listening is so important.
Yeah.
I don't know. So when you said that, it's like, yeah, that I vibe with that heavily. I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But I'm super excited for this opportunity, and I think from this I will learn more about myself. Because even when I started my internship at CUNY TV, like, I never thought I would want to ever be on camera. That wasn't me. So being able to go into this and be pushed out of my comfort zone a little is super exciting and super new, because I like my comfort zone. It's a nice and fuzzy place.
Cozy. Yeah.
But I'm excited to grow from this opportunity. Like, before I came to CUNY TV, I didn't have that much experience, and I've learned so much from so many people. So, yeah. Did you have that same experience when you came into CUNY TV?
To some extent. I think for me, one thing that I found quite freeing was like, people here really trust you with like like producing segments, and there's a lot of creative freedom there. I think there were a lot of growing pains with, you know, working with other people, like having a manager, having like a certain workflow, because before this experience I never operated like that. I always produced everything on my own. I never really had like someone to kind of hold me accountable. So that was a really interesting experience, getting used to like work culture with that. 'Cause it's a totally different beast from college. It's like a whole other thing altogether. So that's been interesting.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure that's for anybody after, like, I know for you, graduating this past January and going into what they like to say the real world. I'm sure that's terrifying. Tell me about it.
It was so rough, rough. And I think that's like a universal experience that no one ever talks about. Yeah. I'll talk to my friends about it. We're all in the same boat. Yeah. There's a couple of things that take getting used to. I think part of it is like, obviously not having, there's less of you're constantly feeling like you're in limbo all the time. Yeah. Because it's not like there's a straight track of you graduate and you're on to the next thing. It's like, okay, I could do this or I could do that, and having like a lack of a direct path can be a bit scary sometimes, but then you just get used to it like anything else. Yeah. And I guess there's a beauty in that, you know, being able to pivot as you see fit, but at the time it's like scary, you know. Yeah, of course. And then another part of it was kind of getting used to, you know, the not having that like mentor-mentee kind of relationship that you have with professors in college. Like, people are more than willing to like help you out and guide you. But as soon as I feel like when you graduate, it's like, okay, now you should just know this stuff. Yeah, and you're not going to be held by the hand anymore, and you're not. So that's kind of, yeah, it's a little scary. And then it's also like you're almost starting from scratch in a way, because you do all this like cool stuff in college, and then you graduate and you're like kind of at the unemployment wise, you're just entering the workforce. So it's like you're starting from scratch, and you realize how little you know. Yeah. And that's scary too.
Yeah, especially like going to college during the time like I'm still in college and you graduated. Pandemic was a rough time to like try to navigate all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
So, yeah, getting over that hurdle, I know, is hard, and I know for a lot of people they're still like trying to get it together.
Yeah, I think it really changed my relationship to education, to the educational system, because as we were like the last like like higher ed institution to go fully back in person, and it's like, well, you're telling me, I was 21 at the time, it's like you're telling me that as a 21-year-old I can go to nightclubs with like doomf techno music, but I can't go to class in person. Like,
yeah, it's a freaky thing. Yeah.
And then as someone, I really value my education and I love learning, and so for me it was just such a blow, and I felt so jaded, and but then entering the workforce is like a whole other thing, but you get used to it just like everything else, and I just wish people talked about it more,
Yeah,
it's tough for everybody.
Yeah, a lot of people kind of treat it as, I mean, I guess people like to treat the pandemic as kind of like this taboo kind of subject. Like, let's not go back there. Let's not talk about it. But like, it has lasting effects. We do have to.
It's like a trauma response too. I mean, I'm sure not, if we're talking about post-grad stuff, maybe someone that's far removed, maybe they don't want to take their mind back there again. So I get that to some extent, but I don't know. Honestly, going on subreddits about it, that's been like my form. And also therapy. Yeah. I can't recommend it enough.
Therapy.
Go to therapy.
Therapy.
Seriously.
It's important.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess, what is next for Hannah Kavanagh?
Honestly, I have no idea. I don't think anyone ever has any idea what's up next. You just kind of take what comes. But currently, I'm producing segments for Urban U. I'm going to start producing segments for Shades of Us. Okay. Very excited for both projects. And just hoping to work on some cool creative stuff outside of work. I recently got into DJing. I have my own show, the internet radio show called Sonic Boom.
Okay.
That I do every other Thursday, and it's kind of like my way to practice mixes and things like that. That's cool. So I've been getting a bit more into that as well, but definitely want to do more creative stuff. Maybe shoot some short films, do some sound for that, things like that.
It's like I said before, you're doing it all.
Yeah.
You're really doing it all.
No. You're gassing me up majorly.
No, you deserve it. Well, Hannah, since I figured it's a new season, what better way to close out the show by asking my guests one last final question that connects us back to our CUNY roots.
Oh, so, ready. Let's go.
I know for me, to get through a long day of classes, I need my one survival item. And for me, that happens to be an iced coffee, milk, no sugar, and the biggest one the place got. Like large, if they have a bigger one than large. So for you,
I love that.
When you were at CUNY, or even now, what is your survival item to get through a long day?
Oh, I would say my bullet journal.
Oh, nice.
Because up until I just have had it for a little over a year now, but before then I would barely write anything down, which looking back is mental. Because I would have a journal like a planner every year, but I would just stop using it after like a month.
I'm like that too.
Yeah. But with the bullet journal, I don't know, I really got into it. It was nice to kind of categorize and color code everything. And then it ended up becoming fun to like write down my to-do list for the day, and it almost felt like a form of self-care in an interesting way. So I think that made things a lot easier for me throughout college, for sure. That's when the tides turned.
Yeah, that gets into your organization stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Hannah, this really has been a great conversation, and I'm so excited that you were able to do this with me today. And again, I just want to thank you so much for trusting me to take care of CUNY Uncut and to take it into its next season. And I'm sure you're going to be doing great things. Oh,
well, thank you for taking on the role. I mean, I know it's, but I'm sure you're going to do amazing. So I'm very much looking forward to see what you do next. And I'm sure it's going to be great.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well, that is a wrap on our first episode of Season 2 of CUNY Uncut. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to check out CUNY Uncut on social media. And once again, I'm your host, Isabel Ortiz. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.